Most guys online don't get results. Most guys online get nothing. They get matched with a few girls that are really unattractive, or they get no matches at all, or they message and the girl goes immediately silent because they don't know what they're doing. But if you know what you're doing, if you actually know how to start getting results, it's just a matter of scaling, and you can get pretty much infinite results. Question is simple, direct to the point. What's better? Live game, cold approach, or online game? Which is the better route to go? Very simple. If you've known me for any length of time and watched my videos, you'll be like, Todd's just going to say it depends. And I kind of am, and I'm actually kind of not. Because for any individual person, it doesn't depend so much. For any individual person, there probably will be a clear answer of, for you, online is better, or for you, live is better. Depending on it depends. Depending on where you're at in your game, depending on what your goals are, that kind of stuff. So there will be a clear answer for each case, but each case may in fact be different. And that's because there are pros and cons to both sort of strategies. One major benefit of cold approach, to an extent, if it's truly random cold approach or if you're truly varying your locations, but especially of online game, is the true randomness of it. The fact that you can, date girls and they won't even know each other. In fact, it turns out I had a situation where I ended up dating two different girls. One of them I met from cold approach. I met her actually on Halloween night when I was living in Los Angeles, and we ended up hooking up and sort of dating for a while. And then there was another girl who I met online in Los Angeles. She called it the best first date she'd ever had in her entire life. And we ended up hooking up as well. It turned out that these girls they were almost best friends. They did not know that they both hooked up with me. I didn't know that I had hooked up with the other one's best friend until I saw in one of their living room a picture of the other girl with them. I was like, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, that's your best friend. In my mind, I'm like, oh my goodness, they hooked up with your best friend. And as far as I know, neither one of them has ever to this day knows that that's the case. So there is a huge anonymity with online game because of the fact that you don't meet in that direct way, and you're not comparing stories and comparing social groups in the same way. That is a positive. Compare that to, I actually had a situation with live game when I was in college. One weekend I had a date for Saturday and a date for Sunday. And I showed up. One of them was this like Scandinavian blonde girl, and the other one was this really cute Asian girl. And the Asian girl answered the door. And I'm like, did I get my dates wrong? Like, what's going on here? I was just very confused. And she's like, no, she's in the shower. She'll be ready in a few minutes. And she kind of rolled her eyes and just went back in the apartment. And weirdly enough, both girls actually went on the date with me. Like the one girl went on a date with me, and then her roommate went on the date with me the next day. They both went through with it. One huge thing that online has in its favor, and cold approach to a lesser extent has in its favor over social circle, but certainly not in any scale compared to online game, is that anonymity and that ability to actually really try anything, really test anything, and have basically unlimited options, right? The amount of girls that go online is essentially infinite. One of my friends was commenting earlier today, because we were talking about online game. He said he thinks every single girl he knows has been on Tinder at some point, right? It's hard to find a girl who has not been on Tinder. Now, that's not to say they're all active on Tinder at this moment. It's not to say that every single, if you see a girl, you could go find her on Tinder right now or something like that. But most girls at some point in their life are going to be on Tinder. So if you were theoretically active on Tinder with a good profile consistently at all times, you would have any and all of those girls potentially coming across your computer screen or your phone screen. So that's kind of a positive thing to think about. However, the issue with that, and we'll get into a downside of online game, is would they actually cross your phone screen, and would you actually cross their phone screen? So one of the problems with online game is that you don't have total control over who you meet. So in live game, any girl that walks by, you can go cold approach her, and no one's really going to stop you, right? So every girl is available to you in that way. At least every girl that crosses the same areas you are, every girl that goes to the same places. Whereas online, it's debatable whether you're going to be shown to every girl. A hot girl's getting matched by so many guys, she can't really be shown all the guys she's matching with, because it would just be overwhelming for her. She's already probably matching with too many guys. So that's number one. And then because of that, the algorithm will kind of choose guys who are more attractive, will kind of choose guys whose profiles seem to do better, that they rate you as hot. And then if you're rated as hot, they'll show you to girls who are rated as hot, and vice versa. And you can circumvent that to some degree by getting on, for example, Tinder Platinum or other paid versions of the apps and things like that. You can also circumvent that to some degree by boosting. So you can do a lot to make that the case, but still there's no guarantee that you're going to be presented to the girls you'd like to see, especially if you are not their type on paper. So for example, me, I'm about, 5'7", 5'8", something like that is my height. Any girl who puts on her Tinder profile or puts in her selection criteria that she only wants guys over 6 feet tall, I might not be shown to, potentially, right? Or anyone, I'm now 38, any girl who maybe like if there's a girl who's like, in her early 20s and she puts that her limit is 29 for who she wants to date, I might not be shown to her. So even if she and I would have attraction, even if we would get along, and even if we'd be able to really connect and really be great together, I might never see her on the app. Whereas in real life, if she's walking down the street, nothing stops me from walking over, being my charming self and meeting her and picking her up. There's kind of pros and cons to, can you meet everybody through one or the other? To an extent, online is the best for meeting a huge variety of people. But then in another sense, live is the best for meeting, very selected people and having a lot more volition, having a lot more choice, and a lot more ability to select who you actually meet. So again, pros and cons kind of both. In my own dating history, I will tell you that I got to the point of getting a decent amount of dates from live game, but I was really having trouble with converting those dates. And I think I would have eventually gotten there, but I was a little hesitant because of the semi-social circle nature. And then I also kind of just due to timing, the school semesters, they end, and then you have this period where you can't do anything. And so in order to keep it going when I was back at home living with my parents and there wasn't really a viable way to go out, in order to stay in practice, I adopted online game. The good thing that I did get from online was it allowed me to keep training and keep practicing when I couldn't otherwise. So for example, if you are a guy who's busy, you're doing a lot of work, etc., you can't really go out as much, maybe on a crazy schedule, maybe you work in an industry like maybe you're in the military and you're around guys all day and you can't really get out, whatever. You can still go online and you can still generate leads for yourself. Or for example, for me, I was at home living with my parents, not going out and doing anything whatsoever social. I could still keep dating and working on my game by going online and meeting girls that way. So it was a great supplement, even very early on. And because I was able to keep going on dates and eventually as I got good at it, I was able to get a lot of dates very, very quickly. It made me good at dates. I got to the point where this whole hurdle of like kissing on the date, I kind of got over it. It was no longer terribly scary for me. It just became the norm. And I perfected my dating game. I perfected how to go on dates from online, because dates from online are fundamentally a little harder than dates from cold approach. On a date from cold approach, you already know the girl. She already knows she likes you. There's already a vibe there. From online, it's a little more awkward. So if you can take online dates and make them consistently turn into something, then taking live dates and turning them into something is just that much easier. Because again, there's that extra history, that extra level of comfort, etc., that goes along with it. That's where I literally learned to date. I learned how to get the dates from live game, although I could have learned it from online game as well. I learned how to do the dates from online game. I went through a lengthy period where in my game, I was good in my live game. I was good at getting phone numbers, good at going on dates, and good at getting results from that. And I got a lot of results from that. During that time, more of the girls I slept with, no, it's not even actually true. About the same number of girls I slept with were from online versus live during that time, but the online ones were from less time put in, less time invested. So it was like more efficient in terms of time. However, the most attractive girls that I met and the ones I was most into were the ones I was meeting live. And I think that's a place when you're in kind of intermediate style game, that's a place a lot of guys are, where you can meet a decent quantity of girls from online, but you're not meeting quite the quality. You're getting a lot of girls that are kind of like, they're cute enough, but whatever. And then from live, it's a lot more sporadic. You're getting fewer results overall, but you know that the girls you walked up and talked to were better looking and are, by the time you take their number, you already know them a little bit. You can already know you have chemistry and whatnot. So the experience I've had kind of historically for me is that when I meet a girl from online, like I have her photos, I have how I picture she's going to look. Typically you show up and the girl looks about 1 point lower than whatever she was online. So if she looks like a 9, you're going to show up and she's going to be an 8, probably something like that. Occasionally there are situations where it's a 3-point curve and it's a problem and you just want to get out of there. But most of the time that's about what it is. So what I'd say for online is set your standard at least 1 point above what it needs to be, right? If you would date a girl who's an 8, swipe on girls who you see as 9s, right? Or at least 8.5s. Date with a girl that's a 7, make sure you swipe on girls that are 7.5 or 8 or up or something like that. However, for me in live game, most times what happens is when I show up on a date, I'm impressed or surprised by how attractive the girl is because I kind of forgot. Like she was really hot at the time and I was really, really happy to meet her, but it kind of faded in my memory. And then when I go meet up with her, I haven't been looking at her photo. I don't remember how she looks and I'm usually pleasantly surprised. So that's kind of a better experience that's happened with live game. But again, for most guys who are intermediate, if you want a volume of girls, online is going to be much easier to get it than live game. However, if you want quality of girls, or if you want the girls you get to on average be of higher quality, then you can do that from live game. However, from online game, just from pure volume, you can get quality. Okay, so if you have a profile that will consistently attract 7s and 8s, you will also occasionally attract a 9 who happens to just resonate with certain things. Like maybe you just happen to be her type physically, right? Maybe she's like, for me, she just likes like blue-eyed guys or something like that. Or maybe like she's an Asian girl and she's just into white guys, and so like I'm competing not with everybody but with like the white guys who also, you know, swiped on Asian girls, whatever. So maybe there's a niche reason why you're getting higher quality, or maybe it's just random, you know, luck of the draw. Occasionally you get the hotter girl. And so you definitely can get quality from online, but it tends to be quality through quantity for a lot of guys, because it would be just depressing if you, you know, swiped for days and days and never got any matches, and then you get that 1-9, you know, 6 months in or a month in or whatever, and you're out of practice, haven't been on a date, etc. So usually the way it happens for guys online is they're getting volume, and then they get sporadic quality within that volume. So that's pretty typical for intermediate guys. All right, so up to this point in the story, pretty much I'm getting good results from both, right? I'm getting good results from online, more quantity than quality, but some of both. And I'm getting good results from live, more quality than quantity, but some of both. But a major thing was in my live game, I was still going through a methodology that was get a phone number, take them on a date, and then close. One of the major projects I undertook was how to take a girl home same night. And especially when I moved to Vegas around 2013, that's what I had to learn, which was how to take a girl home same night, because in Vegas, that's all there is. And once I got good at that, then not only could I meet higher quality from cold approach, i.e. I was truly meeting the girl and selecting and only talking to girls I considered attractive enough and who turned me on and stuff, but then I could actually take them home same night, so I didn't have to wait till later. And that night out doing cold approach became potentially as efficient in terms of sleeping with a girl as doing an online date. And then on top of it, I could get more numbers along with it, not in Vegas, but in other cities, that could actually pan out to something as well. And so that became kind of an issue where cold approach became significantly better for me, but that only occurred at an advanced level, right? So at a beginner level, I would say that they were relatively equivalent. If anything, online game was a little bit better. At an intermediate level, I'd say they were almost like flat equivalent, with just is there a preference towards quality or quantity? If there's a slight quantity preference, go for online. If there's a slight quality preference, go for live. But honestly, if you're intermediate, you absolutely should be doing both, because you're going to get great results from both, and you're going to get very equivalent results from both, very, very, you know, matching results from both, where one is not clearly better than the other. And then at an advanced level, I got to a point where just the live results just became so much better than the online results. It just became kind of silly to go online. But again, that didn't happen until not just an advanced level, but like a level where I'd been in game for, at this point, like 13 to 15 years, right? So that was a very, very advanced level before that really became an issue, before that became a thing. And so my preference, you know, of late has been strongly for live game and for cold approach. However, even during this time when my preference was strongly for live game and cold approach, I did utilize online for certain things. In particular, if I ever move, one thing I absolutely do, like, because I've moved around and lived in a bunch of different cities, one thing I absolutely do whenever I move is I go online in that city, and I basically game online for about 2 weeks in that city before I move there. That way, when I hit the ground running in the new city, I get there and I already have girls into me. I already have dates lined up. And I find, for me personally, it really gives me this really amazing momentum in the city, because I get there and it's not like there's this transition period of, oh, I'm lazy, I'm moving all my boxes in, and then, oh, I don't know where to go out and all this kind of stuff. I hit the ground running. I start dating girls. I have abundance from day one. I'm also learning where the cool spots are, what the things to do are from day one. And it really gives me a nice transition into the new city. So that's an area where even when I got to this advanced level, going online was just really nice for me to accumulate that abundance before I even land in a city. I would also do it occasionally if I was going to a city for a program, like I'm going for a weekend program or something like that, and I know I'm going to be very busy, but I wouldn't mind meeting a girl, and that can definitely help. I know specifically when I've done programs in Asia, I did programs in Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Singapore. Those are the three. So when I've done programs over there, I know that specifically the having an online dating presence going over there helped tremendously, because in my experience in those places, especially when there were language barriers and things like that, was I had absolutely no problem with attracting girls, but I had a lot of problems with logistics when I didn't know the language, and I had a lot of problems with girls' social circles and friends being protective, because, you know, I'm some stranger guy that barely speaks the language. It is a little weird for a girl to go home with me. But from online, I was able to get through those logistical obstacles and get really, really great results consistently on those trips, as opposed to it being hit hit or miss as it would be from like a live game perspective when you don't quite know the culture, you don't quite know the logistics, you don't quite have everything, you know, all your ducks in a row when you're starting off. I assume if I were in those cities longer, then over time, as I got more used to it, the cold approach would eventually become superior to the online game again. But I do know that when you're in a place for a very short period of time and you want a volume of leads and you want like logistics to be much better for you, then that is definitely the case. Also, speaking of logistics, another thing that I've done both online and cold approach is had threesomes, right? Me and my girlfriend, we've had like a couple dozen threesomes, I think. Most of them from live. At least two that I can recall from at least two that I can recall from online. Maybe more, but at least two from online. But the thing that we noticed with that is getting a girl attracted to a couple is extremely easy. It's a huge turn on for girls. Girls are very into like the kinky experimental stuff in general. Even girls you wouldn't think would be very, very much into it. But logistics is massively hard. As hard as logistics are with one-on-one game, threesome game, it's way harder, way more difficult because the girl thinks she's being judged way more and she thinks it's way more of a scene and things like that. So, getting girls attracted and doing threesomes live is one of the most incredibly fun experiences you will ever have in your entire life, and you wouldn't want to like miss that for anything. But the one thing with getting threesomes from online is that the logistics are much easier. It's a lot smoother process overall. But the getting attraction part's a little bit harder, and the transition of how to set that whole thing up is a little harder. I'm not going to go too much into threesome online game right now. That's something I can do in another video, or I might do in another area. But I will say, again, the logistical part is much easier with the online, whereas other parts like the attraction part and things like that are maybe easier live. That's been my story, and that's why, again, over the past several years, you'll have seen me doing a lot of live stuff and not a lot of online stuff. However, of late, as you may have seen in recent videos that I put out, I have switched over to doing a lot more online. Why? Because girls are just not out as much, right? And the hardest part of live game, like cold approach game, has always been finding girls of significant quality, and that gets harder and harder the higher your bar is, so to speak, the higher caliber girl you're looking for, the harder it is to find girls of that caliber. So, it's just, if you can't find the girls out, if nightlife's not happening, etc., well, then online becomes kind of the go-to option, or it becomes a good option. And the other thing with online that I've always kind of spoken about is that you can do it in your spare time. So for guys that are busy and want to do some kind of game, one thing I recommend is, let's say you're in like some big corporate job and you work crazy hours and you're trying to get promoted and all that kind of stuff. Well, you probably have a lot of meetings that are bullshit, right? You have a lot of meetings you have to sit in, you have to be present, but they're kind of bullshit. And now, especially with these like online meetings, Zoom meetings, etc., you're just sitting on a computer doing nothing. Well, what I would do and what I do when I have those kind of meetings often is I will sit there and I will swipe during that meeting, right? In fact, I basically don't swipe on my own time. Right? I will swipe when I have nothing better to do or there's something else going on and my time is literally already spoken for. So for example, there's a Zoom meeting, I'll put on Tinder, put on a Boost, and I'll just swipe during the meeting. And that's my social life for like 2-3 days. That's it, right? That'll get me enough leads that I can message, go on a couple dates, and I'm good to go just from that, right? That's pretty awesome in terms of time efficiency. And so that's the major thing nowadays when I'm I'd like to say world class at live approach, and my quality is really good, and I can go out and pull a girl most nights if I'm trying to. That kind of eclipses online game in a lot of ways. But one way which it will never eclipse online game is no matter what in cold approach, you have to put in time to get results. In online game, you do not have to put in time to get results. In online game, you can truly get passive results. Right. One thing I did, I just set up a new account on Hinge. I put on a boost on Hinge. I got 15 matches the first day. I did not even bother swiping. I only just looked at the girls that matched with me. And of those 15, not all of them were 10s, right? Not even most of them were 10s. A lot of them were, 8s and whatnot. So like girls that most guys would be massively happy with, and girls that are objectively very cute. Not all stunning models or whatever, but 15 matches in a day, of whom, more than half are like hot, without doing anything. Literally with, you just set it and forget it, and you got 15 matches. That's incredible. Try matching that from live game. It's very, very hard to do. So the time efficiency of online is incredible. And a lot of people complain about the quality from online. There are all these girls that are not that attractive. Just don't swipe on those girls. Or just when they match with you, just, unmatch with them. It's not a big deal. It's all passive anyway. If you're getting 2 hot matches a day passively, who cares that it's only 2? You didn't put any effort for it. It's completely passive. And that's the beauty of online game, is that passive nature. Once you have it set up, you do have to get over the threshold. Most guys online don't get results. Most guys online get nothing. They get matched with a few girls that are really unattractive, or they get no matches at all, or they message and the girl goes immediately silent because they don't know what they're doing. But if you know what you're doing, if you actually know how to start getting results, it's just a matter of scaling, and you can get pretty much infinite results. And then you can learn how to make your results passive. If you even want to take active results and make them passive, there are ways to do it. I've had times in the past where I've hired a virtual assistant to literally do the equivalent of swiping for me. I gave him a swipe criteria, so to speak. He swiped for me, and then I only bothered even looking at the girls that match with me. Things like that are doable from online. You certainly cannot do that live. I guess you could. I guess you could hire a club promoter to like promote a party at your house or something. I guess you could do that live, but it's much easier to do online. That lack of effort thing will always make online better than live to a certain extent, right? In terms of pure quality, if you get to an advanced level, live will be better than online. If you're intermediate, you absolutely should do both. If you're a beginner, you absolutely 100% should do both, because you're going to get really good results from both, and you're going to learn good lessons from both, right? The skills you learn doing cold approach will make your dates better online. The skills you learn doing dates online will carry over to all your cold approach dates and will be super critical for you when it comes time to learn how to escalate, close the deal, all those kind of things, all right? Learn both, do both, until you get to an extremely advanced level, at which point you can choose your preferences. But at that point, I don't need to give you advice. If you've gotten advanced at both, you can honestly make your own decision, and it will be an informed one. So from there, I'll leave you to your own devices once you get advanced at both.